Hello, welcome to Wally Bois, and today I'm going to make a boom arm. And if you're wondering what a boom arm is, it's one of these. And it's how I keep my cables and my airline away from the bench. So I don't have the situation where I'm getting hooked up on my vice handle here or anything else that might be sticking out because I've got cables laying around everywhere. Yes, you're still going to have a few cables laying around, I suppose, if you're as messy as I am. But it does actually save you a lot of aggro when you're working on the bench. For instance, if you've got a large window frame or a door frame or anything like that, you'll have a corner. One on each corner, will you? Because, there's 4 corners. And because of that, you can get hooked up with your cable on the corners. So a boom arm like that one there will make life a lot easier. Yes, it will. And also, I've got another boom arm. I've got one here as well, which is connected to my cyclone. And that allows me to be able to stretch across my bench with my hose without it actually touching anything or knocking things over and what have you, or tripping over hoses everywhere. And when you're in a small workshop like I've got here, it can be a blooming pain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another boom arm, and I'm going to have that in my garage. Yes, here. In here. This is where I plough my cars and my motorbike. And I'm going to have a boom arm fixed to this post up there, if you can actually see it, because it's a bit dark in here. But even though the door's open. Oh dear. But yeah, I'm going to make a boom arm. So let's get to it, shall we? Let's make a boom arm. Well, let's start with the cutting list. The boom arm is made of 2 main components. The boom arm itself, where you'll have your airline or your cable attached to, and also the hinge component, which will be the part that is screwed to or bolted to your wall. That makes the hinge. Now, this particular part, the hinge wall mount, you are going to need one 400mm by 90 by 30, 2 120 by 90 by 30, 2 50 by 30mm dowels. These could be a broom handle or an old curtain pole. It just needs to be round to make the pins for the hinge. The second part of your boom arm is the boom arm itself, and the boom arm itself can be made out of a variety of different materials. In this video I'm using a piece of oak that I had left over from cutting the wane edge off a board. So it's a bit of scrap really. You could use a piece of aluminium like one of my other boom arms are, or you could use an old rough rack bar. It could be anything, it doesn't have to be wood. But it needs to be able to swing from side to side, and to do that you need to be able to mount that to the hinge wall mount. Now, for the boom arm itself, what I've chosen to use in this video is oak, and it's 1200mm long by 20 by 100. You'll also need 2 pieces of 250mm by 80mm by 30mm pieces of oak or pine or chestnut, whatever timber you've got, it's not important. And you're also going to need a piece which has got to be the same thickness as the boom arm itself, in this case 250mm long by 80 by 20mm thick. So let's get started cutting these bits of wood. While I've got your attention, would you be most kind and click like and subscribe, and maybe that little bell icon, because then you get a warm fuzzy feeling in your pocket, and that'll be me uploading another video, and I know you'd be excited about that. Anyway, let's get back to the video. Well, we're starting with the hinge wall mount, and we've cut the pieces of pine to length for a backing plate, but also the knuckles. The knuckles require a hole in them, but to line them up I'm going to screw the 2 pieces of wood temporarily together, and then we're going to bore a 30mm hole all the way through to accept the dowel pins, and the dowel pins will be the pins of the hinge pins. So I'm using a Forstner bit in a pillar drill. It gives me 90-degree hole. It makes it's perfectly straight. Ooh, yes. Look at that. Ooh, it slides so easily. So we now have are 2 knuckles which are drilled perfectly in line, but I'm just going to clean up the edges with a little palmer outer. This is a little Katsu palmer outer which you can buy for about €30. It's cheap as chips, it is, cheap as chips. So you can see now the actual hinge pin itself, the hinge pin can actually fit through the hole and make up the hinge pin for the hinge. I'm getting tongue tied here. So there we go, we've got the 2 pieces here, but also we've got to fix them to the back plate. And to do that, I am going to do a little channel using the radial arm saw. It's a housing joint, so it will then prevent the pieces of wood which are going to make the knuckles from being able to move or wobble about on the actual backing plate. It makes it stronger. I won't need any additional reinforcement. These are good old saws. These radial arm saws, it might be old, but it's a great machine. I really like it. So back to the old bench. And I'm going to clean them up with the old, DA sander. This is a Chinese Merca copy. That's about €25 it is. It's cheap as chips. Just like that router. So I'm just marking the back, ready to drill my holes for the screws to hold the knuckles into place. But first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to construct our boom arm. As you can see, I've cut a tape of that boom arm. You don't have to if you don't want to, but it takes some of the weight away from the end of the boom arm. And I'm using Cascamite powdered resin wood glue. It's a great bit of kit, it is. The nice thing about this for this job is when it dries, it is rigid, it's hard, unlike PVA. So there won't be any movement in the boom arm. So I've cut the scrap piece of wood, which is a spacer, but and it's the same thickness as the actual boom arm itself. And then we've got the other 2 parts of the knuckle, and they're going to be glued and screwed together. Now I'm screwing this time because, well, it's for the purpose of the video. Yeah, it just speeds things up for me so I can do the video in one hit. But I personally would have just, I would just stick the glue on, whack some clamps on, and leave it 2 hours or overnight to dry. So it then doesn't require any mechanical fixings. But for the purpose of the video, just so I can get the thing made for you, I've decided to use some pins and some screws to hold it all together. But this particular glue is extremely good. It's very, very strong. I'm using these C clamps or G clamps, depending where you are, depending what you call them. In the United States, I think they call them C clamps, I believe. I've always called them G clamps. My background in boats, we used to always call them G clamps. As you can see, I'm using screws to hold it together. And that just, I suppose it's a bit of added strength as well, but it's only really there for the purpose of holding it together while the glue goes off, because the glue itself will hold it. So now I can release the clamp. Release the clamps! So the clamps are released, I'll put it to one side, and now we can actually glue and screw the knuckles, the hinge knuckles, into place, into these housing joints. And as you can see, they're snug as a bug in a rug, and now we're going to put some screws in the back. We've already been prepared for that while we were waiting for the glue to settle down, because when you mix your powdered resin wood glue, just give it a few minutes for the actual powder to absorb the moisture. So there we go. Now I'm going to clean up the other knuckle, the knuckle for the boom itself, and I'm putting a round on the back. Now the reason I'm doing that is so the back corners can't interfere, or as it turns, and interfere with the backing plate, the wall mount portion. So just round it off a little bit. You don't have to, you might find you've got enough clearance, but while it was in my voice, I thought I'd just do it anyway. It serves a purpose, doesn't it? And any excuse to pick up a hand plane. In this case, it's a little record low angle adjustable mouth block plane. It's a little record one. It's a quite good little tool. So now I'm going to cut my pins to length. Now, in hindsight, there was something I should have really done, I think, on that, watching this video, and that is that these hinge pins, I should have really sank them into the ends of the other knuckle, the boom knuckle. So when I put my screws through, the actual edges of the knuckle of the housing holds the pins, not just the screw. In this case, the way I've done it is just the screw. So, like I used the Forstner bit to drill the holes through the wall mount knuckle, I should have really done an opposing recess into the ends of the boom knuckle. In that part there, you know. So we're putting a screw right through the middle. We're pilot holder, clearance holder, and we're screwing all the way through into the ends. Now you can probably see what I'm talking about now. If that was actually recessed into the ends of the boom arm knuckle, it would be a lot stronger. But it's strong enough, to say the least. This isn't a little lightweight one. It's not like my bigger ones, because it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be, and also doesn't need to be quite as long as the others. So now we're installing some screw eyes, or screw hooks in this case, and that is going to be what we use to attach our cable to, or airline. You could even just use it to use some tie wraps and actually attach your cables using tie wraps. But what I'm actually going to do, I'll just thread my cable through the eyes, and then I'll just pinch them up a little bit with a pair of pliers, and I'll just grab the cable tape. Don't squeeze it too tight, you don't cut it in half, do you? So with these screw eyes, I always pilot hole them, because they're a nightmare to get started otherwise, and you are supposed to pilot hole them. So as you can see, a little pilot hole, a little drill, not all the way through, just enough to get it started. And then you can screw the screw eyes in. So there we have it. We have a working boom arm. Look at that. Oh, he's such a swinger. Oh, look at that swinging. Oh, yeah. Ooh, swinging. Oh, swinging it is. Right, that is ready to be installed. So let's take it through and let's get to it and install it. Well, I'm all done. It's all made. And I've now got it installed. It's my boom arm. This is the kind of thing you can plug in your lead light when you're working on your car under the bonnet and you don't want the leads to touch or scratch or damage your motor, or even your motorbike, or even you could use it to just have it above your motorbike or whatever if you got it on a battery saver, charge or what have you, so you haven't got leads all over the floor. On the other hand, you could put your airline, curly airline, and I usually just hook up at one end, and then I can have it out of the way and just unhook it and I'll bring it to where I want to work. To do that, what I've done in my other one, above my bench here, I've actually got a little extension, like a little wooden hook, and on that I can then actually just grab my airline, such as this one here, and I can just get it out of my way, just up there like that. So now I ain't got an airline dangling around my ears or on my bench. Anyway, I hope you like my little video, and if you would be most kind, click like and subscribe, and maybe that little bell icon, because then you get a warm fuzzy feeling in the pocket, and that'll be me uploading another video. Anyway, thank you for watching.